Welcome. It is the end of May, May 30th today, and I have some books to talk about. I almost finished another book, but why is the lighting so bad in this? That's better. Okay. It's the end of May, so it's time to talk about the books I read. I only read 5 books this month, and one of them was a manga. I mostly read a lot of books with a lot of pages, and I'm not the fastest reader, so it took a while for me to get through all of them. But I had some really good reading. I think I only rated one below 5 star. I think I only rated one below 4 stars. So it's a pretty good reading month. Let's get to it. Okay, me and everybody else read Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. It actually took me a while to read this one. I owned it for a couple of weeks before I started it. What am I doing? I just didn't want to get sad. And everybody says it's really sad. And it is. It's a very depressing book. I gave this 4 stars. This is a Haymitch's origin story, if you don't know. This is the 25th Hunger Games. And so instead of having just the normal amount of tributes, 12 tributes, they had 24. Nope, that's not right. They had 48. I haven't filmed in a while, if you can't tell. So they had twice the amount of tributes, and that's kind of the whole idea of the Hunger Games this year. This book I found really interesting because I think the deaths were more brutal than I thought they would be. I haven't read the original trilogy in a long time, but I don't remember them being this brutal. Like, nope. I was really surprised by some of these deaths and how brutal they were. And I thought it was an interesting concept because it kind of shows that the revolution didn't just start with Katniss, that it started with other people beforehand. And there's, not everybody just wants to go along with what the Capitol is doing, and that it wasn't just something that happened over a couple of years. It's been happening for a long time. So I thought that was really interesting. I thought it was really cool concept. And I went in completely blind. I haven't read the last series in a long time, so I did not even remember anything about Haymitch's story. And so I didn't even remember how he won the games, what happened to his family. I didn't remember any of it. So everything was a complete shock to me. Not going to go into too much depth in this one because I'm sure everybody and their mom has already read it. So a lot of people have done in-depth reviews of that book and all of the themes and all of the characters. I thought it was the only problem I really had with this book was that it seemed so easy for them to just kill Haymitch at any point during the games, and they just chose not to. The Capitol did, and I thought that was really weird. I mean, obviously he has to stay alive to be in the other books, but the fact that he, they can target people so easily, and yet they didn't target him for all the shit that he was doing, I thought that was really strange. But apart from that, I thought this book was really depressing. It did not make me cry, like it did with most people. I think it's just because I have never been a huge fan of the Hunger Games. I really like them, but I'm not like a diehard fan of them. I first read them when I was 20, maybe I was younger than that, but I didn't read them when I was a kid, and so I didn't grow up with them or anything like that. So let's go on to the next one. Next book I read was Jade War by Fonda Lee. This is a pretty chunky book, but the third book, Jade Legacy, is even bigger, so I don't know when I'm going to read that one. But I really enjoyed the series. It's about a world where Jade is kind of the magic system, where if you own Jade and you have it, it gives you certain powers. And it's mostly owned by 2 clans, the Mountain Clan and the Nopeak Clan. And so they're kind of these 2 warring clans. I don't want to go into too much detail because this is a sequel. I don't want to tell you what happened at the end of the last book, but the 2 clans are warring, and you follow these siblings that are the head of the Nopeak Clan. I mean, if you like reading about politics, you'll probably like this book. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was really interesting. These characters could talk about basically nothing, and I would read about it. I think they have really interesting dynamics. I won't say who, because characters do die in these books, and I don't want to spoil who dies in the first one. Pretty sure more people die in the third one, so I'm really nervous about that. But it really goes through their life and how the sacrifices they need to make because of these because of the leadership roles that they're in and how they sacrifice family. And if they have kids, they're not around those kids very often. This one goes even further because there's a war that's brewing in another continent, which is really interesting. This here is the world map, and it takes place in that little island. Which I thought was really interesting. I didn't realize when I read the first book that it took place in such a small part of the world. And because it seems like such a big, it seems so big where with all the adventure and the politics and the war and everything like that. But I'm hoping to read the third book next month. There wasn't much I disliked about this book. I think it was a little long at times. It could have been edited down a little bit. And it just didn't give me that 5-star feeling that I get from some books. And so that's why I give it 4 stars. I think it's really interesting because if you look at the praise on the back of the book, like all of the reviews, they always say it's like nail biting and heart pumping and all these action scenes. There aren't as many action scenes as they make it seem like there is. There's a lot of politics. There's a lot of them just sitting around talking about their next ideas and next plans and what they're going to do to try and fight the other clan. But the action scenes are few and far between. But there were some deaths that really surprised me in this book, which did in the first book as well. So they're really good at having those things kind of come out of nowhere and really surprise you. So if you like that kind of thing, I would pick up this series. It's really good. And I am just like all the other girls and guys around in the world because I read Dungeon Crawler Carl. I'm just like every other booktuber and book talker and everybody else because everybody's reading this book right now. And there's so much hype behind it. I ended up giving it 4 stars. I've seen like one bad review of this book just because they thought the humor didn't land, and the humor is like 90% of this book. And so if you don't like the humor, you're not going to like the book. And this story is about a post-apocalyptic world where basically all of the buildings get flattened by an alien race. And so anybody inside those buildings die, and anybody who happened to be outside at the time can go into a portal that'll lead them to a dungeon. And the goal is to get to the bottom of the dungeon, but no one has ever made it past the 12th floor, I think. It's very Dungeons & Dragons. It's very RPG. And so it gives achievements when certain things happen. And this guy, Carl, is accompanied by his cat, who ends up getting an item that helps him her talk. And so it's him and this cat walking around trying to survive this dungeon. And it kind of gives the idea of what is he willing to do in order to survive? Like what kind of his humanity will he lose? But I don't think it really goes that far into it, which could be this is the first of like 8 books. So that could be why, and they're just trying to build it up. But I think my biggest problem with this book was, one, the humor didn't land for me in a lot of ways. And when the jokes don't land, it's really hard to enjoy this book just because it's mostly jokes. I kind of wanted some serious moments at times, and none of it was really very serious. And also, you don't get a lot of backstory on Carl or his cat. It's hinted at that there are certain things that happen to them in their lives, but they don't really go into detail. I assume they will further into the series, but I really wanted some of that in here. I really don't know much about Carl, except the fact that he's in this dungeon and trying to survive. Like, there's not much to him. So I kind of just wanted a little bit more depth, but I'm sure that happens in the later books. I've heard that this is one of the worst, or not, it's not bad, but I've heard that it's like the weakest in the series, that it really gets a lot better. So I don't know if I'll continue this series. I don't know. Humor doesn't really hit for me in books very often. So I'll see if I decide to buy them. I wish they were coming out in paperback because this is a lot of money to spend on 8 books, on books that you think are just mediocre. Maybe I'll try and get them from the library. Okay, the next book I read was the second in the Oshinoko series. This series is about how much can I go into this without it being a spoiler for the first book? This is about a doctor. He's a big fan of this pop idol, and he ends up meeting her when she gets pregnant, and he's supposed to deliver the babies, and then he ends up getting murdered and ends up reincarnated as one of the babies. So he's now the kid of this idol, and this is him and his sister as teenagers. They're now in high school. So he was this big prodigy in acting when he was young because he was basically an older guy in the body of a toddler. And so everybody thought he was so good at acting because he was just actually 22. So now he's trying to infiltrate the world of acting, and his sister is trying to become a pop idol. And I thought this was a really surprising, different tone. I gave this book 3 stars because the first book was really surprising and it had a lot of twists and turns in it. And this book really doesn't. This book is mostly just them trying to break into the industry and him not wanting his sister in the industry and that kind of thing. And so I thought it was a little bit of a disappointment just because the first book was crazy. And so the second book was just kind of mediocre to me in comparison. I do have the third one that I'm hoping to read, and I'm hoping it gets a little wilder. The last book that I read was Girls with Long Shadows by Tennessee Hill. This is a story about 3 sisters. They're triplets, and their names are Baby A, Baby B, and Baby C. Their mother died in childbirth, and so she never gave them a chance. She never got the chance to name them, and I guess their grandmother just decided, you don't get names then. And so this story is, I've heard it described as virgin suicides, but in the South. And it kind of is like that. You follow Baby B is the person who narrates this book. And it really talks a lot about, it kind of just is a character study. It just kind of follows these characters as they go along their lives and their identities when they're triplets, because everybody in the town sees them basically as one person. Very few can tell them apart, even their boyfriends. And they are often seen as just one entity. They're called the Manatee Girls because that's a nickname their grandmother had. They don't even bother trying to learn their names, even though their names are just A, B, and C. And I thought the themes were really interesting, the idea of identity and how when you're a part of something so tight-knit with 3 people, it's hard to know where you end and they begin. I really wanted to be a twin when I was younger, and this book convinced me that maybe it's not the greatest thing. I think at times that this book kind of tried to bite off more than I could chew, because towards the end of the book, it tries to have the theme of, it tried to go into the idea that men are treated differently in the justice system when they do violence against women, and how they go about they talk about their lives and how this could ruin their life if they go to jail, and their potential and everything like that. And they kind of destroy the idea of the woman or the girl that got hurt. And I thought that was interesting kind of turn, but it didn't really go too far into it. It was settled pretty quickly, and I kind of wanted more from that. I mean, the book's pretty short. It's hard to kind of flesh out those themes when the book is so small, and especially when it doesn't happen until the last third of the book. But I thought it was really good. I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed these characters because they had such distinct personalities. I think that's it. All I want to talk about. What is happening with my hair right now? Okay, let's talk about the books that I'm planning on reading. I almost finished a book for this vlog or for this video this month, but I didn't end up finishing it. It was We Could Be Rats by Emily Austen. I DNF'd one of her books months ago. I DNF'd Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead, which I know is blasphemy in the books. In the book world, everybody loves that book. But unfortunately, her thought spirals became my thought spirals. And so I didn't DNF because I didn't like it. I DNF'd it because it was bad for my mental health to read it. So some of the fears she had are also fears that I have. So it was not great. But this one is a lot more different because I can read about depression. That's fine and easy. I used to do it all the time when I was younger, when I was in the thralls of my deep depression. But reading about anxiety is a little harder because it triggers the anxiety. But this book is about a girl who is attempting to write her suicide note. And she is not really writing to anyone in particular, but she does mention her sister here and there and wants her to edit it down and things like that. And she has all these different attempts as to the letters that she's trying to write. And as through the letters, you end up learning more about her and why she's doing it. And she often lies to you. She'll tell you that she's doing something for this reason. And then she'll be like, I also lied earlier. That is not true at all. And so far, I think it's really interesting. I think it's a really good book so far. I I like learning about this character, and I love reading books about people with depression and kind of the reasoning behind it. I also just ended up canceling my book box for Once Upon a Book Club because it's expensive. But I did end up getting the one for May, which is Rules for Ruin. This is about an academy, from what I can tell, back in London. I don't know what time period this is from, but I think it's a Victorian London. And it's about this academy that is basically there to fight the patriarchy, which I find very intriguing. Victorian London and fighting the patriarchy, I will take it. It says it's a historical romance, though. I don't know how I feel about that, because if it's not a gay romance and they're trying to fight the patriarchy, I don't know. Is it blasphemy to date a man while you're trying to fight the patriarchy? I don't know. So I'm gonna see that and see how that goes. I'm thinking about doing a vlog about books that are outside of my comfort zone, which, because I have an Emily Henry book that I have had forever and I've never read it and everyone loves it. I have people we meet on vacation, which I don't know how I bought it. I don't like romance, so I don't know why I bought it. I don't remember accumulating it, but it's here. Yeah. I also have a horror book, The Watchers by A.M. Shine, that I'm thinking about reading for that as well, because I don't read a lot of horror books. So I'm kind of thinking that's what I'm going to do for the next vlog. I didn't come out with one this month. I'm sorry. That's my bad. I have some footage and stuff, but I just didn't do it. So I'm hoping I come out with one next month. What is the lighting happening right now? It's turned weird. So yeah, that's all I want to talk about. Thank you so much for watching if you've made it this far, and I'll see you next month.